I like to invite on a guest to discuss this whole concept of New Earth and what that looks like as we create it together. I'm really excited for today's guest. She is the founder of Starseed Solutions. She's also a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner, and her name is Melanie. I have a hard time with her last name because I can't roll my R's, but I'm going to give it a try. Melanie Aguirre. So maybe you can make that a little better for me, Mel. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. My last name is pronounced Aguirre, and that is Spanish. Thank you. Thank you for trying.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I'm just not a good tongue roller. I've been working on it since high school. I got to change that affirmation.
It's all right. You got this.
I do. How are you today?
I'm great. Great. Thank you very, very much for having me today. I'm ready to talk about some quantum healing hypnosis and all the benefits. And
Beautiful. Well, I am honored and excited to hold space with you here on Heart Over Ego Radio. Can you start with that? Will you please tell our listeners the name of your website and a little bit about what you do?
Sure, definitely. My website is www.mhstarseed.com. And again, that's mhstarseed.com. And my website covers quantum healing hypnosis technique and also beyond quantum healing hypnosis. It also covers Reiki master energy work. Let's see, what else I got on there? Natural healing clinic. I have nonprofit information. And there's also contact information and what's new. It has all my events, has some products. There's a little bit, covers about my bio, a little bit about my background. So
Beautiful. So any of our listeners, go ahead and hop on to mhstarseed.com to take a look at Mel's work as we chat about it. So Mel, something I like to ask as we're ascending into this whole new dimension that we're all kind of trying to call in, but nobody's quite clear on what that is. I always like to ask, we asked this on the Alchemy Sisters, like at what age did you know you were seeing things from a different perspective or you felt like you were starting to hop on your soul path?
Oh man, I would say about elementary school.
Okay.
I was very intuitive. Even around the age of 4, it really started. That's when I started becoming abducted by aliens and extraterrestrials. And so that's kind of when my intuition and my questions really started. I started questioning the government and the money system at a very, very young age. And as I got older, didn't have a lot of friends. I had some friends, of course, but I knew that I thought differently and felt differently than other people. And so it was a bit of a challenge growing up, but I got through it and I survived through it. And so now I just use my intuitions and my abilities to help other people, whether it be physically, if someone's having issues in a physical manner, I can help them release energy on a quantum level in that way. So that pain can even be related to a past life. And that's something that I can help them release in that moment as well. And that's what's also great about the quantum healing hypnosis technique is that it provides healing on a quantum level as well, just through hypnosis.
That's fantastic. Can you tell us what a quantum level means and what it looks like when you're in there doing your magic?
Sure. Quantum level, we also kind of look at multi-dimensions. So we have different paradigms and energy shifts, different timelines, some people like to call. And we also have past lives. And with that, we access the past lives through our Akashic records. It's almost like a filing system of everything that's ever happened to us in our entire lives, whether it be this life or past lives or even the future lives that we haven't even experienced yet, or have we? And so it's a really great way to kind of dive into that playground of different aspects of yourself, because everything that makes us who we are now in this moment is everything that's ever happened to us in this life and previous lives. So some of the skills that we naturally have, that we just naturally pick up on, that could be from a different life. You know, someone that's gardening, for example, that loves herbs, you know, they may have been a quote unquote witch in a past life. And so that's just kind of a skill that rolls over. And since those skills are ingrained within our DNA and with us on a cellular level, we carry that through each dimension as we ascend and as we transform into other lives, even after we pass. We carry that pattern and cellular memory with us, even after we die. And so that's what's great about the Akashic Records and quantum healing, is that we are able to figure out where the physical pain, for example, in the body is coming from, why it's there, and what it is needed in order to release that energy. And a lot of the times it could be trauma, or it could be a self-block, a fear that we even place on ourselves or someone else can place on us. Or it could be a message from the universe that we're not listening to, you know, such as example, you know, kind of stumbling and breaking our foot or our
We can
ankles
use
at
me
that
as an
point.
example. I'm a perfect example for this right now. So our listeners, I have had my fair share of injuries over the years as I've been ascending myself and answering the callings of my soul as opposed to the callings of my ego. And it always ends up being pretty physical with me, and I'll have injuries. And over Labor Day weekend, I had such a great day. I was hanging out with a few of my other soul sisters on the beach. We had a wonderful day, and I gave so much gratitude to my body because I'm like, wow, I'm so healed. I feel so much better. I'm so strong. And one of my newer friends who I've only known the past few years, she didn't know me when I used to have a lot of injuries. And I did say out loud, I was like, yeah, I literally spent pretty much a decade on crutches, and I'm so glad like that's over. Hours later, have a great day at the beach, swim, go for a walk, feel amazing. I bring my stuff home, and I'm in the backyard, and I step into like a pothole, and out goes my ankle. And I'm like, no, we just talked about this. And so it's pretty interesting because it's slightly fractured. It's sprained pretty good. It's hurt in different places than it was before, but it's a time for me to tune in. And this is an opportunity for all of our listeners and everyone. When these things come up, it is for a sacred purpose and reason, and it has a lot to do with your individual healing and your ascension. And Mel is bringing amazing attention to that. So feel free to use this lovely left foot injury as an example.
Yeah, and that's another good example, is that being a left foot. You know, what we've learned is that the left side of the body represents the past. So that means either moving past something or letting something go. And that would be related to a past life or even events that happened in this life in the past. And so with the right, that would be an example of right here, right now, something we need to listen to right now that on our path needs to either be changed or redirected.
Beautiful. And then the left and the right also have to do with masculine and feminine, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, and depending on what kind of shoulder pain you have, that could be also a representation of a male or female in your life as well. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Very interesting how this all works. So for me in my healing process right now, I am going to be doing some work with Mel and some hypnosis to work on that a little bit. But then I also am making sure I take a step back. I think about what karma might be releasing from a past life, what my higher self's trying to tell me, what messages I need to listen to in order for me to feel more in alignment again. There's so much that can come up when we feel injured, and then there's so many powerful transmutive qualities about that as well, if we let it to be something that happens for us. In the past, when I was injured, I used to get, really irritated and upset because I was on much more of a 3D timeline, and I was rising and grinding and had to accomplish all these goals and work really hard, and I wasn't listening to what it is my soul and spirit were trying to say. So this is probably my first injury I've had where I've been far more conscious of what it is I can do to heal it. And I've been putting on castor oil patches and crystals and hypnosis and talking to my guides and all kinds of different things. And it's a much different experience. So even when we are feeling pain and when we're experiencing that and we're going through the uncomfortable, I feel like that's when some of our most powerful transmutic energy and timeline hopping can really happen.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and I can definitely say that staying present and staying grounded during healing is probably one of the most important things, especially when we're trying to understand what's going on, because a lot of times we can be lazy about it and just take some anti-inflammatories and call it a day, move on with our lives, and not really think about or pay too much attention to the pain that is within our bodies or that we're experiencing. And a lot of the times it's the thoughts that we're thinking, the positive thoughts. And so if we can just remain positive, remove the I can'ts or I don'ts and I won't be able to, a lot of that causes blocks on our healing. And that can also manifest physically. The universe really wants to speak to us outwardly before they really have to start speaking to us inwardly, because then that's where those little injuries come from, you know. And before I became a hypnotherapist, I was a massage therapist, and I was on my way to work, or on my way home to get ready for work, and I had gotten in an car accident, and someone T-boned me on the right side. And from that accident, even through treatment, the doctors told me that I had permanent neuropathy and that it wasn't going to get better. It was only getting worse, and it had been 3 years. I had a handicap placard, and, sitting, squatting, twisting, lifting, even using the restroom, everything hurt. And so when I found quantum healing hypnosis, I found it through YouTube, and I had seen a client go through their experience of the new earth. And so I decided to look more into this technique because that what he was speaking of was in alignment with everything that I had already known. And so once I looked into this technique, which was created and developed by Dolores Cannon, she did an amazing job at putting this technique together because in every way it's perfect. Through traditional hypnotherapy, you hear that a lot of people cannot be hypnotized. Well, everybody can be hypnotized. And especially with this technique, even the people that say, I wasn't hypnotized, they were hypnotized. Even if I tell you to close your eyes and to see a green tree, and if you see the movement of the tree, that is the first step of being hypnotized or even through meditation. It's all about imagination and using your senses. And so when I found this technique, I wanted to try it for myself. I knew that I wanted to be a hypnotherapist, but I had to try it for myself first. And it was perfect because I was suffering from discomfort from neuropathy. It was from my waist down. So from my waist all the way down to my toes on my left and my right legs. And after 3 years, it had started spreading up my back. And through my mid and my upper back. And so by the time I found a hypnotherapist, through one session, the neuropathy was corrected 98%. And the message that I had received through my hypnosis session was that I was not supposed to be a massage therapist. I was supposed to be a hypnotherapist. And so once I received that message, my mind was able to correct the issue on its own. And not only did I do it myself, but I also had the assistance from the hypnotherapist, because the hypnotherapist is always our tool. It's always like that screwdriver that we need to get that screw out of the wall, you know? And
Right.
so just like any other tool, quantum healing hypnosis or even Reiki is just another healing tool for us to get the client in a state of healing where they are able to heal on a multidimensional level. And that can even be cellular or on a DNA level. And a lot of times people have worked with hypnosis, quantum healing hypnosis, with their pets or with other family members in their lives. So it's kind of perfect. It's safe. I highly recommend it to anybody who's tried everything, because I myself is that person that has tried everything in order to get past the neuropathy that I had for 3 years, and I do feel a lot better. I did have a second session, and that corrected the remaining 2% of the nerve damage that I had going on in my right leg.
Wow.
And so, and it was a very interesting experience because I was able to feel the nerves jumping back into place, you know, because of that impact, you know, coming in to the right so hard, it really shifted everything and pushed it to the left. And so it was a little painful, but I knew that my body was doing what it needed to do in the moment. So
I've experienced that with healing myself, and like it's really hard to explain and describe to other people, but when you really do tune in and ask your body to start healing and really put that true new program towards it, it hops too. And you feel things shift and move on a cellular level within your DNA. Sometimes you'll get sharp, weird little pains, but I've experienced that. So I just want to affirm that for you and for our listeners, that will happen, and it's magical, and not to be afraid of it.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And sometimes when we don't listen, so even after a hypnosis session, sometimes it's really important to stay on track. And so a lot of the information that can come through a hypnosis session is very beneficial for the client in order to change their path. So they come with us with different questions. You know, what is my path? Am I on the right path? You know, they want to ask questions about relationships or other people in their lives, even about their career and physical. And well, how can I change these habits? Well, okay, let's check in. So through quantum healing, we're able to connect the client with their higher self. And that's where the answers come from. A lot of us are already connected with our higher selves and we don't even know it. And
Absolutely.
and sometimes we can even go into hypnosis and we feel like, oh, well, we weren't in a trance. We weren't hypnotized. Well, it's because we're already awake and aware and we're already connected. Those types of people probably don't need to ask certain questions if they already know the answer. Because during hypnosis, it's more of a confirmation, you know? And so it's really listening to ourselves and trusting ourselves and that intuition that we have. And a lot of people don't trust their intuition. And so that's what can cause that gray area for them is, you know, they want to believe and they put that block up for themselves, you know. And so it can be a little difficult for some, but for others, it's very easy. And we're able to look at life in between death and rebirth. And so it's really interesting at what we can access. But I think a lot of it is trusting yourself and believing that anything can be possible, really.
That is what you just said is basically my simplest version of what the difference is between the 3D and the 5D. And when you're living within the 3D, everything has limits of some sort. And when you're living in the perspective of the 5D, you not only love and accept yourself fully for where you're at and forgive quite a bit. It's always a spiral, so not quite everything, but a good amount. And then you're able to see from a limitless perspective. And there are almost no limits or boundaries, and we can go as far as we possibly want when we choose to shift into that perspective. And I think the interesting thing is too with the 3D and the 5D is so many people just think, oh, we're going to be there instantly and create it and it's going to happen. And I think I want to hold some space for that as we do this quantum healing and hypnosis, but I also see it being subtle too. And as we continue on our independent sovereign journeys, sometimes you'll have one foot in the 3D, sometimes one foot in the 5D. And sometimes it's a bit of a balance and bridging back and forth as you heal deeper in order to ascend. So all the tools and techniques and things that you're bringing in right now are going to be so important to aid that. And it's important for, I always encourage our listeners, just like you strengthen your muscles, to go back in and re-strengthen your programming or the programming you want to subscribe to. You were talking about, Mel, how everybody's, able to be hypnotized, even the people who think they're not. And I giggle because it's just like, I feel like we've all been hypnotized and programmed our whole lives. And once you get a bigger kind of perception on that, then you get to choose the programming that you actually want.
Yes, you can pick your own channel at that point, and I do support anybody to talk to their body and encourage their body to heal because it really does work. And even though some of us get stuck in between, for, even the 4D sometimes or 3D, talking to your body just can bring yourself into a present awareness, which is consciousness. You're already being self-conscious in that moment, because a lot of us, when we eat, our mind is somewhere else. We're thinking about yesterday, we're thinking about what somebody said. But if we can bring our consciousness into the moment of eating and tasting our food and not worrying about what somebody else is doing or what else is on our schedule for that day, that alone can bring a lot of grounding into our moment and into our day. And so if we can just do more of that and practice more of that, even if doing the dishes or doing yard work, even just sitting at your computer, taking a few breaths, listening to your breath, that alone is meditation. It's easy, it's quick. You don't have to light candles. You don't have to sit in the lotus position. It's easy, it's comfortable. And if you do it long enough, you can even start doing it while you're walking and talking to other people. And so it just kind of helps bring that 5D awareness in. And a lot of people say, well, where's the 5D? I don't see it. Well, that's because we have to create it. It's not just going to show up on our doorstep from the UPS man. We have to create that. And a lot of it starts with ourselves, looking inwards and cleaning out the junk, the multi-generational junk, the ancestral junk, and getting down to the nitty-gritty of those emotions and cleaning out the grief closets, cleaning out the anger closets, cleaning out the depression closets. And that's what's great about hypnosis, because it's non-invasive, and yet you're still doing what you need to do, and it's quick and it's easy as compared to going to a psychologist or a therapist for years. I've done that. Talk therapy, it really is helpful and beneficial. But for me, hypnosis, it really gets to the point and it helps me understand on a deeper level. Because once I can do that, it's easier for me to let go sometimes. And even though it doesn't make sense a lot of the times, it still comes easy. And the universe will never, ever, ever give you more than you can handle in the moment. And just when we conquered one hurdle, the universe will give us a little break, but then here comes something else that we need to face. Because that's what life is about. It's about learning and growing and challenging ourselves, pushing past our own beliefs. And I think another thing is accepting other people and loving other people as we would love ourselves. And that's another thing is we have to start loving ourselves and start loving those dark closets that we don't really pay too much attention to. And once we can start having empathy and compassion for ourselves, then we can practice having that for other people. Then we can understand their pain and their discomfort as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the biggest, I feel like love is our biggest healing and ascension tool. And the more, the whole election season is like the best time to practice that, because we see every single person getting triggered, and we see every single person trying to have different opinions or trying to express or share their own opinions. And, if we have things within us that we allow to trigger, it's an opportunity to find more self-love and awareness within ourselves, and to investigate our belief and why we believe that way about it. But then it's also an opportunity to send love to the other person. And if you can do that in those more heated moments, or those harder moments, or those shadow moments when we don't want to do it with ourselves, when, you break your ankle and you just want to self-loathe for a while, but then you take a few breaths and you say, okay, actually, I'm healing and this is better and I'm at peace and this is happening for me. That's when you transmute that energy, because the energy already exists and it's about shifting what we're doing with it. So then if we get all of these individuals shifting themselves individually and stepping into more self-love and acceptance, and then sending more self-love and acceptance to everyone else, then that's how we're going to do what Mel said, and we're going to start creating that new earth. Because when enough of us are focusing on it and enough of us are meeting at that kind of level, then we start to break down the barriers and the limits and the constructs.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Definitely true. And they're the ones who divided us in the first place.
Well,
And
then
so,
there's that,
yeah. Well, and like you said, during this time, a lot of people are starting to put up their walls around this time, and it's not okay. So I hope everybody can start looking at other perspectives and just really looking at the bigger picture. I think at this point, I think that's the most important thing.
I agree. And when it comes to my own beliefs and the things I've learned from my guides and higher self, it comes down to choices between love and fear. And if you can choose love, it's always going to end up better for the most part. We do need to have boundaries. We need to have healthy boundaries. We don't need to be showing up in abusive situations. But at the same time, we also get to choose our actions and our reactions and who we're letting into our fields and when, and then the type of energy we want to give back to it. So it is a dance, and it's not easy, but it is what is going to help us all create this beautiful vision that we're all wanting. Because every single human, when it comes down to it, just wants to be seen, heard, loved, and accepted, and of service to others, from what I can tell.
Yeah, and I really think that we should start sitting down with each other more one-on-one. And I know that it can be a difficult time right now for people to get together and do that. But the fear, it really has to stop. The fear-based ideas and judgments about other people and ourselves, it has to stop, because that's what's creating this. So
I agree. And that's what's been keeping us in this thing that we have created for so long, is the fear, whether it was social or religious or cultural, whatever kind of programming or experiences you had growing up. And even now, if it was fear-based, then that is impacting your beautiful vessel, which wants to be so of service to you, but our bodies can't be of service when we're operating in a state of fear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's another thing. We've all been hypnotized and conditioned as at a young age. Even, for example, extraterrestrials. We were taught that they were scary or here to harm us, and so a lot of people have that giant fear and they block it out. Nope, they don't exist. That's their easy way out. So once people, they think since they can start, once they can start opening their hearts a little bit to other ideas and other ways of healing, other than just going to the doctor or just listening to the media, or for example,
Absolutely. And I think that's
prescriptions.
a great thing to bring up too. And as we near the end of our show here, your business is called Starseed Solutions, and you're clearly connected to the cosmos. And you mentioned being abducted as a child, and now you're mentioning, it is safe to hear from some of these other energies and entities and beings. Could you give our listeners just a little synopsis of what other energies you might be connecting with and what it's safe to befriend at this time?
Definitely. So at a young age, of course, I have been awake and aware, and my abduction started about when I was about 4 years old. I am looking into a little bit more on that, and at the age of 14, I graduated into a higher command. So at a young age, they would take me and we would learn about different telepathy, I would call them games here in this realm. We learn about different color and how to use the color and to surround ourselves with that color so that we don't malfunction because we are technology. And
Mm.
so once you go through a series of testing and learning and an ability, at the age of 14, that is when I had graduated into the higher command of Ashtar ship. And again, looking more into information about that. I do have connection with Arcturians, so I have channeled them and communicated with them and the Greys as well. I've had sightings, and I really, really do resonate with being a starseed. And if for those who don't know what a starseed is, a starseed is somebody that volunteers from another place in our universe, and they come here to Earth in order to help Earth ascend and to raise the vibration and to help bring healing and other alternatives, safer alternatives to the Earth, as far as growing together and to just bring peace and love and just kind of help plant seeds, plant seeds into people's minds. I talk to a lot of people that don't know what hypnosis is or quantum healing, and so I love telling them what I do, and it really gets them thinking, and so that's what I call us star seeds. We're here to plant new information and help the growth of new Earth and the ascension into the new Earth, and a lot of us have different roles, and my role is just to bring healing and love and another aspect of that to everybody here.
Well, we are grateful that you chose to incarnate and that your soul path led you to have some nice counseling from many other star seeds to help us along our ascension. Mel,
Okay.
can you please tell our listeners your website one more time in case they want to work with you?
Yes, that is www.mhstarseed.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on today and holding space with me and our listeners and sharing so much wisdom and information that's going to help all of us along our journey.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely not easy, but that's what we're here for.
That is what we're here for. So thanks again. Thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in here on Heart Over Ego Radio. Please like, subscribe, and follow us. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all major podcast apps. Melanie, thank you again. Wishing you a lovely day.
Thank you, Mandee. Hope you have a great day as well.